Mom actually called shortly after 7 this morning, telling me that the dog was still awake and to come over when I could. They were already on their way. I ended up falling back to sleep. Didn't get over here until closer to 8:30. Wasn't quite, but close. And I'm having a hard time getting started. My allergies are really kicking in. It just took me about 5 minutes to get my nose taken care of and some other stuff. I'm slowly getting the soup ready. I've got, this is from the ham, the juice from doing the ham. I'm going to clean the fat off that. I'm going to rinse this. I'm going to finish making the bread, get the veggies out. I'll get back to it. Well, I got most of the fat off the jelly here. I'm not a fan of going no fat, but I'm not a fan of having it real greasy either. That's basically the fat I'm leaving in there. Maybe a teaspoon or teaspoon and a half. Not a lot. I will add some water to this as well. When last night Mom and I were talking about it, and we opted not to use the water from when I boiled the bone. So I've got this plugged in, it's on high. I'm going to put the beans in with that. Then I'm going to add some water. I'm going to grab the vegetables that I chopped last night. Now I'm contemplating something. Just a minute, Bella. I'm contemplating sauteing the onion and celery a little bit before I put it in. I'm not sure on that what I'll do. Now I've got too much liquid since I dumped the liquid with the vegetables in. Yeah, I think I'm going to saute those. I opted to just stir this in, and the fat that was on the jelly from the ham ended up floating up, and it's on the top here. There's not much there. I'm not sure if I'm going to stir it back in as it heats or not yet. I'm just preparing a pan here to saute the onions and celery. Just real quick on the celery, the onions need a little more than the celery does, because I sliced the celery so thin. It's not uniform, it's not done with a machine, it's done by hand, and I'm not a real fan of having everything exactly the same. It's one thing if you're talking about slicing meat or cheese and you have something that with a guide. It's something else if you're doing vegetables. I personally like to do them with a knife, and I don't care if they're not exactly the same for all of them. I'm going to let this heat up. I'm going to leave the lid off the beans for now. The carrot and celery, or the carrot and the potato, may or may not just end up turning to mush. It doesn't matter. That's basically why they're in there, is just to help prevent gas and add flavor. Not quite hot enough yet on this stove that's supposed to cook in half the speed. But I'll get the veggies done. Get them added to the soup. Like I said, I'm going to leave the lid off for a while, let it cook off some of that extra liquid, and go on from there. While the onions are sauteing there, I decided to mix up this bread. It's got to raise twice. It calls for a tablespoon of oil, and well, I've made it before, and Mom's actually helped me because she needed it for me. She said it was easier adding the oil at the end. Me not liking to get things on my hand, it's easier to add it at the beginning. And I actually mix it with a fork until it's incorporated most of the flour, and then I'll knead it a bit with my hands. All this is sourdough starter, which is flour and water, a little bit of salt, a little more flour, a little more water, and just a little bit of oil. I did not use the olive oil that it called for. I used what Mom had, which is probably canola, maybe corn. Let's get back and stir these for real quick. I may need a little bit of water. I don't want to add any more oil, but I may need a little bit of water on those. Well, Mom's dog's behind me over here wanting something, so I guess I can better take care of her. That's why I'm here. I'm just cooking while I'm here. Mom usually has the dog with a bed on the couch. I'm more for letting the dog be a dog, so I move its bed down onto the floor. And she is blind, she's deaf, she's old, but she still likes to get around and do stuff. She's come in from the living room. She's back. I can hear her behind me. Her feet on the floor. But she's not fussing, at least at the moment. I'm working this bread dough. The bread flour is a high gluten flour, and you can actually feel it when you work it. I'm not going to work it any more than that. I believe that's enough, because I will do it again, and I did use the fork. I found a recipe, and it's actually all in grams. It's all by weight, and it's a bagel recipe using sourdough from a lady who, her and her husband had a bagel shop sometime in the past. Doesn't say when the post was made, but it said the post was 15 years. It was 15 years before the post that they had the shop. Okay, get these almost And I'm going to let the celery get a little bit of a translucent as well. It doesn't need as much time as the onion, or I don't think it does. Mom would probably disagree with me. It'll still look good, all of it will, and it'll all taste good. It's basically just steaming now. The oil, whatever there was, I'm sure is picked up in the onion. And there was a teaspoon, maybe 2 of oil, not a lot. The dog's talking to me again, so I'm going to let these continue to steam. I'm going to go take care of her. For the record, I was actually looking up these glass top, and I can't remember, I think induction stoves. I was looking at the hot plates myself, because I wouldn't want a whole stove with that. But it was interesting looking them up, how high of wattage that they use. Single burner, 1800 watts. I have that little double burner that I used when Mom and I did the pretzels, and that with both burners is only 1500 watts. The small burner is 600, the large burner is 900. I rarely even use the large one myself, and that is what I cook on. That's my cook surface at my house, because I have a small house. Don't actually have a kitchen, I have one room. But the thing is I could put a canner on mine. It doesn't say anything about no canners or nothing large. This one, Mom can't even put a stock pot on, a large stock pot, which she has one. She bought it, and she's never used it because glass top won't take it. But it was interesting that I was looking it up and how much power that it consumes, but it heats, boils twice as fast, heats twice as fast. The surface doesn't get hot, only your pan. You can spill egg on the side and it doesn't cook on. Well, how did I burn myself? Right there, by the way. That is the burner. Right there, edge to edge. Instead of over here on the edge of the stove, it's, what, 4 inches in from the edge. And you can't hardly see it. It's just got these little faint lines that you might be able to see. But beside the point, it amazes me that all these things that are supposed to be faster and do better. Look at the HO washer. Mom bought one. It's a top load agitatorless. I love the agitatorless. I don't like the high efficiency. It uses less water. Okay, fine. But it also takes Mom's old washer. Oh, this one uses less water, but it has a max load of 8 pounds. The load size, how much the fabric can weigh that you're putting in it. 8 pounds, by the way, is 2 or 3 pairs of denim jeans, Levi's. Maybe a couple dozen light t-shirts and some socks. 8 pounds isn't very much. Her old top load with an agitator, yes, it did use more water, but you could also put 30 pounds, 35 pounds of fabric in it. And it took less time. Even on the longest setting with an extra rinse and a pre-soak and everything, it took less than an hour and a half. This new one that Mom's got has one that goes like almost 3 hours. If you do a pre-rinse and a pre-soak and an extra rinse, it usually goes at least 2 hours, and that depends on the load you're doing. So it amazes me, all this new technology. Here, let's do it. Technology. All these new appliances that are smart appliances really don't save you money. They really don't save you water, unless, of course, you wash clothes every time you take them off. You wash your clothes, put it in the wash. Well, then you would have, yeah, you're not doing a lot of clothes. But say for someone that has a family, growing up, Mom used to do laundry basically 1 day a week. Sometimes a little more often, but usually 1 day a week. And she'd do a week's worth of clothes for 5 people. And by doing that, needed a larger tub on the washer. But I just don't understand the new bigger, better, more expensive, computerized devices. Put a switch in like it used to have. Take the computer out. It's cheaper to not have the computer anyway. But I don't know. I'm just on a soapbox on that. I don't believe that all these new things are really as efficient as what they're saying they are, because they take more time, which takes more power. They may not have as much water, but in this, it supposedly takes half the time on this glass top. But you know what? It also tells you never to put it on high. And I've still got liquid in here. If this took half the time, why? I really don't see that it is a time saver. It burns stuff really good. Mom's really good at burning stuff on this. She says it's only on low. Why did it burn? Well, because it's not a standard stove. I haven't burned anything, but I also usually spend more time watching what I'm cooking. Mom has a bad habit of walking into the other room and watching whatever her husband's got on TV, or sitting down and listening to an audiobook or whatever. Where I spend time, I actually watch what I'm cooking. I'm going to get off my soapbox. This has got a few more minutes. Gonna put it in the pot here with the beans. There you can see I just stirred it a little bit, and that fat it's warming up a little bit, so that fat, and there's really not much in there, and I think I'm just gonna leave it. But for now, I'm gonna turn off the camera and leave you all thinking about the dog whisperer. Leave it! Well, I've been busy. I got the dishes done. Kind of cleaned up the sink. And I've got the celery and onion in here. I don't know if it's how visible it is, but there's not much fat on the surface here, even with what I left in and what I added, the vegetable oil I added with the celery and onion. I might scoop a little off later. I'm just going to leave it, let it cook, stir it. I don't think there's enough fat there to harm anybody. And the flavor it adds is amazing. But that's done for now. There's the bread started. I'm going to leave the lid off here. I do need to feed my sourdough start. I'm probably just going to use some all-purpose flour, although I've got that grain that I did the other day. I think that's actually rice flour. That's rice flour. I may need to grind that again or find a different way, because Mom's mill doesn't grind very fine. I may go with the bread flour, but I doubt it. But I might also make some bagels. I really want to. I may do that. Uh, sorry, just had a loud motorcycle go by outside. But yeah, I've got to feed the starter. And this is actually, it was a Honeyville. Someone gave this to Mom. It's a Honeyville 9-grain mix. Millet, buckwheat, corn grits, flax, soft white wheat, barley, rye, oats, hard red wheat. And I just ran it through the grain mill. It makes, the starter really likes it if I feed it with that. Because it, I don't know why, it just likes it. Thanks for watching Perhaps Cooking. Feel free to share, give me a thumbs up, or subscribe.